Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Renee Mehrra. Thank you so much for joining Zoom in with Renee. Today, my guest is one of India's finest musicians, Sitar Virtuoso, Ustad Nishat Khanji. Thank you so much, Nishat Khanji, for joining me today. Namaskar.
Hello, very nice to meet you, Renee.
And there's so much to talk to you about your upcoming concert at Carnegie Hall in New York on March 2nd, your collaborations, your concertos, your extraordinary style of sitar playing. And I want to tell our viewers that Ustad Nishat Khanji belongs to a very illustrious musical family. He's the son and nephew of sitar maestros. His father, Imrat Khanji, and his uncle, Ustad Vilayat Khanji, who I had the pleasure of interviewing and also emceeing one of his concerts in New York. So for me, this is a very special time with you. I know you've been traveling from Europe to US, from the West Coast to the East Coast. So thank you. Your unique style of music, you're combining Indian classical music with contemporary music and added to that jazz, flamenco. So there's a whole lot of components here. How did you develop this? You're coming from a very traditional heritage of Imdad Khani Gharana, and then mixing the two together, bringing a very spellbinding sound, which mesmerizes all of us.
Thank you, Renee. The thing is that, when I'm playing Indian music, I play Indian classical music, of course. But when I'm doing my collaborations, then that is a time that you play out on your creativity and on your influences, your inspirations. So then that becomes a music that is, of course, derived from Indian classical music, but then it has different elements of different musics that are my inspirations according to the project that I'm doing. But on the 2nd of March, when I'm playing Carnegie Hall, of course, I'm playing my Indian classical music. It's a homage to my uncle, Ustad Vilayat Khan Sahab. It is his 20th anniversary. And so I'm doing this Carnegie Hall concert, Zankel Hall concert. And there I will be playing classical Indian rags, the way I play. I think people have said that my way of playing is a little different because I play music very much of the moment. So I don't really decide what I'm going to play before. Most of the times, I don't really decide before what I'm playing. It depends on the audience. It depends on on how things happen at the sound check, as they say. And you come into the concert hall, you get inspired by something, or you want to present something that is going on in your inspirations. Yes. There are many elements, so I'm very much looking forward because the audience will be great. I love playing in New York. It's one of the best audiences in the world, and the occasion is very special. So I'm looking forward to that. But your question of my collaboration, my collaborative elements of my life, very early on, I sort of got interested in many different musics of the world because I was listening to those musics while I was traveling since my childhood. I was traveling. And I did my first concert when I was like 7 years old.
Yeah.
And after that, I was traveling and I was playing in Europe and America with my father. The first time I came to Europe and played, I was 16 years old at that time. And since then, there are many different influences in your life. You're traveling in the West, and there is jazz. There are other, there's classical Western music. Then there are things that I love very much, which are very endearing music. I call them like flamenco. So I'm one of the pioneers who started this collaboration between Indian music and flamenco, and so I used to play with Paco de Lucia. I played with Paco Peña.
You've collaborated with Phil Glass, Evelyn Glennie, John McLaughlin.
Yes. So it was just wonderful to play with these great musicians, and you play your element, and it truly is collaborative music because you have things that you come with, and then you see what they have, and you come together on a it's a dialogue. in a language that both of us could understand, and hence, the audiences, the listeners, they participate in that whole experience. And that's how things happened. And then I was composing concertos. So, I was greatly honored to be invited by the BBC
Yes.
to.
Was that the Sitar Concerto #1, The Gate of the Moon?
Yes, that was number two because I had already
Number
done.
two. Okay.
Yes, I'd already done a sitar concerto, which I played for the opening of the Commonwealth Games in Canada. So that was it was called Melodies of the Spheres. So that was my first one, and then I did this one, which was Gate of the Moon, which I was greatly honored to be commissioned by the BBC, and I played at the Royal Albert Hall and with the BBC Philharmonic. So that was another collaboration. I was doing then things with Evelyn Glennie, which was special work with marimba. I was doing things, and then I composed something for the cello. So I did that with Sheku Kani Mason, who was one of the great cellists of our time. And so I was very lucky to play with all these musicians and present this music. You're coming on the platform, on the stage, or you're doing something with these great musicians in spaces where it becomes like a real meeting of hearts and minds, and then music happens.
But when you're doing those collaborations, that has to be properly curated. Mostly Indian classical musicians, they just are in the moment, like you talked about it. Like, okay, in the moment, I'm going to play this rock. But when you're collaborating and performing with other musicians of different genres.
Definitely, it has to. It has to have some sense of what you're going to do, sense of composition, sense of how you play. You understand the other person's style when when you rehearse with them, or when you spend time with the musicians, and then you take the music out, and then it kind of makes sense. Otherwise, it's like otherwise you don't want it to go.
So that's like a proper jugalbandi.
Yes, that becomes like a real collaboration to playing together. And then there are other elements in the group, or if there is such a thing, different people doing their things. They sort of play a music which is conducive to the subject of what you're talking about, and the emotions of those subjects, and so that becomes a sort of a work that's thought after or thought about. So yes, that's the process.
And you've also performed with Eric Clapton, my favorite, and Santana.
Well, the thing is that I was very honored to be invited by Clapton for Crossroads Festival. 2004. So we didn't actually play together, but we played after the one other on the same stage. We played for his sort of Santana and coming and going, and then I playing, and then Clapton coming and playing, and then somebody else was playing, and somebody else was. I mean, there were great guitar players in that festival, so I played part of that whole concert. And it was really such an incredible experience to play for 60,000 people, in Dallas. And then, because that music is coming and people are in such a spirit. In America, people listen to music, and, there's a relationship to music which is in such a different way from other parts of the world. They are, and that genre of music, and it's great fun to play, and they are very open. And then you go out and do all your virtuosity that you can, There's such guitar players, the best guitar players in the world, playing under the same roof, playing the sitar. So that was a lot of fun to do that, yes.
And you have performed in such iconic venues. We're talking of London's Royal Albert Hall. We're talking of the Vatican, Millennium Park in Chicago, Carnegie, Lincoln Center, all those beautiful venues. Amazing. You also were very much influenced by your grandma. She also trained you when you were a small child.
In our, well, we have a very particular relationship with our grandparents. When we are learning music in households of gharanas, your grandparents, your parents, obviously your father, my father was my teacher. But then my grandmother was a very special person. She was responsible for holding our gharana together because my grandfather passed away very early. And so she had a big influence in our lives and big inspiration in our lives. So I was very lucky to have her also in the house, and I growing up while she was around. And so, yes, there are things that she remembered. She was very, very well educated in music, and just by listening, by just picking up things. She didn't have any formal training of music, but she remembered the composition. So as children, we learned something from her. Something she would always sit down and come and say something to me while I was practicing. So I was very lucky that she was around. But of course, my father, I learned, he's my guru, and I learned from my father. And I then staying with my father, traveling with him, and traveling around the world and playing concerts with him. The learning is constant.
Yeah.
It's like, so you're even learning in your sleep because things are going on. You subconsciously listen to music all the time because he was practicing in the night when I was a child. And then as I was growing up, I was practicing, something is going on in the other room in the house, music coming from there. And then I have, my brothers would play also. So somebody else is practicing somewhere. So it was like a musical factory in our house. But as I was growing up, I was fortunate to also, sit with my uncle many times and observe him. And he was the greatest inspiration of my life. I would listen to him, and I loved him, and he loved me a lot. And so he would show me things, and he would talk about things, and so it was like really a constant learning process where you are seeped in music. So I was basically, it was like a beautiful ocean where you're drowned in music, and you resurface to do your things, and then you go again, and you're surrounded. And that's what the whole idea of my life has been.
You're breathing, living music all the time. And that brings all the inspiration and the innovation that your unique style of music has. It's very energizing.
Yes, the thing is that my in my style of playing, people ask me what is my style of playing, and it's very hard to describe a style of playing because I'm playing so many different influences of my life. But I truly, for Indian music listeners, they would understand that I truly play a combination of Dhrupad Ang, of Khayal Ang, of Sitar Ang. There are other techniques and other things that and other forms of Indian classical music that I use in my playing. So you have a gamut of many different things in my playing. And then I use a lot of sitar, my own sitar techniques that I play, the technical tans, technical things that I do. And so the music I play is it's an influence of many things, many different things. So some people relate to those things, like guitar player relate to my concerts in a different way. A composer would relate to it in a different way. I'm showing different kind of things, resonances. There are things that I do which are totally my way of playing. And until you are sitting there and hearing this concert, you realize, what I'm trying to do.
You are also the recipient of a very coveted award from Radio Mitchi, which is equivalent to the Grammys here in the US. And that was in 2019 for John Mayer.
Yeah. So this is in 2020. I got this award for the best album of the year. I don't know how they chose me, but it was very nice that they did. And in this album, I created this album for Anuradha Palakotti, who's one of our singers in
Yes.
States, is one of the best singers we have in outside of India. I mean, it's like, and I wouldn't just say that. I would also say that she's one of our best singers, and
Yes.
so beautifully she sung this whole album. So I sort of created this different kinds genres of songs. And, I made this album for her, and then I made the music of different kinds within these different forms of songs. And thank God, I mean, it was just wonderful that this happened, and this award was given to me. But yeah, but we all strive to do as much as we can. As you know, music is all about pushing. To me, it's all about sort of pushing boundaries as in different ways that one can. As long as your own aesthetics are you can present your own aesthetics. That your own aesthetics come across what you're doing.
Your own signature that comes on the music
Yes.
that defines you.
For example, I did this other project, the Gregorian Chants, which is sort of choral music that I did, and that was something that I played for the Pope at the Vatican. And that is a different kind of music, because that's completely, it is in its own way, it is being presented as that music should be presented in a very, it has a very spiritual aspect to it. And it's a music which is very reflective kind. And so I've always tried to keep those emotions, those sentiments, and those values in what I'm playing, what I present of that kind of genre of music. So it speaks different languages of my own personality and my way of thinking, my values of life.
Yeah.
And that's how I try to present my music. Yeah.
You also played with the Weezer band, Love is the Answer.
Oh, yes. I get surprised when I hear about that, because something, yes, I did. I mean, I created a song, Love is the Answer, and I created when you sort of redo that music, but I wanted to do it in Hindi. So I created a Hindi song, and and then it was done with some Indian music I put in there, and they wanted to redo this song, as it was their idea that they wanted me to do this. So they asked me about this, and this is how it worked, and it sort of worked. A lot of people have been talking, especially in America, about it, and I very flattered, that it worked well.
Your concert is with Ustad Vilayat Khanji's son, Hidayat Khanji, a good friend of mine, and the Mausiki Ensemble, showcasing the journey of Ustad Vilayat Khanji. So much of excitement and buzz.
I'm delighted to play this concert. I'm so much looking forward. I mean, I love to play in New York, but I don't play often enough in New York. So this is really great that I'm going there and playing. I love New York audiences, and it's a wonderful atmosphere, because people there listen to music. It's like they have these old souls who are sitting there in the concert hall, and they are listening to this music in a certain sentiment, and it's an emotional experience for me to play there. I really love to perform in New York, so I'm really looking forward to this project. Also, it has such a poignant occasion.
Remembering Ustad Vilayat Khanji, his amazing legacy.
Yes. And so I'm looking forward to that. Besides that, I've just created a production, so it's constant music all the time.
Right.
Besides the other things I like to do in life. So,
You get time to do any other things besides sitar?
Yes, I do. I mean, I love to spend time doing nothing sometimes, but the music is still there. I mean, I like to travel a lot, and when I'm traveling and on my own free time, I'm doing stuff that I'm writing stuff, and I think of things that are going. So the time is never there. As the vacuum is there, the vacuum is also, it has a different zone where other things are creatively going on all the time. So one way or the other, your mind or your psyche is occupied. in doing something, and presenting something new.
Yeah.
So
And
besides that, I'm also doing this Royal Festival Hall concert with my brother who plays the Surbahar, Irshad.
that was your father's, legacy,
Yes,
Surbahar.
yes. So I'm doing that in Royal Festival Hall in London on 10th of March. So that is happening. Some other projects are coming up, and this is what's going on.
And you're based in London, right?
I'm based in London and Delhi and,
Oh, all over.
I truly, if you ask my friends, if you know my life a little bit,
The world is your home.
I truly live that gypsy life. So, like people ask me, where do you live? So it's like truly, I mean, I'm very blessed that I live all these places. I don't know where I'm going to be living, where it is, but there are long periods of time I'll spend at a place and then I move my base and go somewhere else. So, so the inspirations keep happening. I'm always where I'm needed. I'm always there. So that's the.
Your father was in St. Louis, Missouri for a very long time too.
Yes, he was. He lived in St. Louis for years and years, and he's there. And yeah, so I mean, it's like music takes us. We are very lucky that music takes us where we need to be, and that's part of our lives.
Share a memory of your uncle, Ustad Vilayat Khanji, who's that's the concert that we were talking about March 2nd. That's his legacy and remembering him. Any strong memories of your uncle with you when you were growing up?
If I had to talk about this, I could write a whole book, of course. But I'd tell you one little thing that I was very young at that time, and he used to live in Shimla at that time, and he, of course, there was a very special connection I had with him, and everybody knows that there was a very, my reverence for my uncle is very, very deep. So I was a little boy at that time, and one night he took his sitar out and he was practicing. He was playing, and it was this room, a corner room where he practiced, and it was very late in the night, very late, and I'm literally saying say about 12 o'clock or so, or 1 o'clock in the morning, and he was playing malcons, this rag called malcons, and I, as a little boy, I came into the corner of the room. I was standing there in the corner listening to him, and he said, and he was in deep practice, and he said, like he, just made a sign that come in. I came inside. He said, like, sit down. So then he kept on playing and was sitting, and he said, and he used to smoke pipes. And so he said, so while he was playing, he said, take those pipes out and clean them for me over here. Yeah. So I sat there cleaning his pipe, listening to his music through the night. And it was like, I was doing that. I was sitting there, and it was his way of saying, okay, come here and participate into something. I was a kid, so he knows I'm not, so how am I going to be there and have, be involved and be there. And so it was his way of saying, just stay here and do something, sit down and take this moment. And that was one of the beautiful memories. I mean, there are hundreds of these little stories.
Precious memories. Yeah.
Things that there are musical things. There are many, many beautiful musical moments also. And so really, that's what it is.
I found him to be very humble, very down to earth, amazing musician, great interview with him, and it was a privilege to MC his concert in downtown Manhattan. So I have very precious memories myself of Ustad Vilayat Khanji. And here we are talking about the concert, remembering his legacy on March 2nd, where you're performing with other great musicians. So thank you so very, very much, Ustad Nishat Khanji.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been really nice to talk to you as well, and to your audiences, all my good wishes. And it's been a pleasure speaking here. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm Dr. Renee Mehrra. Thank you so much for watching. Stay healthy, stay positive.